and for peace and security in the region. Such an outcome must be avoided at all costs." End of quote. On 5 January 2024, the Secretary General wrote again to the Security Council, providing an update on the situation in the Gaza Strip and observing that, I quote, "Sadly, devastating levels of death and destruction continue." End of quote. The court also takes note of the 17 January 2024 statement issued by the UNRWA Commissioner General upon return from his 4th visit to the Gaza Strip since the beginning of the current conflict in Gaza. I quote, "Every time I visit Gaza, I witness how people have sunk further into despair, with the struggle for survival consuming every hour." End of quote. The court considers that the civilian population in the Gaza Strip remains extremely vulnerable. It recalls that the military operation conducted by Israel after 7 October 2023 has resulted inter alia in tens of thousands of deaths and injuries and the destruction of homes, schools, medical facilities, and other vital infrastructure, as well as displacement on a massive scale. The court notes that the operation is ongoing and that the Prime Minister of Israel announced on 18 January 2024 that the war, I quote, "will take many more long months."
I think it's also worth mentioning that the numbers that are coming out of the Gaza Health Ministry are most likely very conservative. When you consider the sheer amount of people that are still stuck under the rubble, probably dead, thousands of people that are not counted for in the death toll statistic published by the health ministry. And it's so sick looking at the Biden administration doubting these numbers, saying, oh my God, I can't even put into words how angry the shit makes me, bro.
End of quote. At present, many Palestinians in the Gaza Strip have no access to the most basic foodstuffs, potable water, electricity, essential medicines, or heating. The World Health Organization has estimated that 15% of the women giving birth in Gaza Strip are likely to experience complications, and indicates that maternal and newborn death rates are expected to increase due to the lack of access to medical care. In these circumstances, the court considers that the catastrophic humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip is at serious risk of deteriorating further before the court renders its final judgment.
I'm glad the International Court of Justice decided.
The court recalls Israel's statement that it has taken certain steps to address and alleviate the conditions faced by the population in the Gaza Strip. The court further notes that the Attorney General of Israel recently stated that a call for intentional harm to civilians may amount to a criminal offense, including that of incitement, and that several such cases are being examined by Israeli law enforcement authorities. While such steps are to be encouraged, they are insufficient to remove the risk that irreparable prejudice will be caused before the court issues its final decision in the case. In light of the foregoing, the court considers that there is urgency in the sense that there is a real and imminent risk that irreparable prejudice will be caused to the rights found by the court to be plausible before it gives its final decision. The court concludes, on the basis of the aforementioned considerations, that the conditions required by its statute for it to indicate provisional measures are met. It is therefore necessary, pending its final decision, for the court to indicate certain measures in order to protect the rights claimed by South Africa that the court has found to be plausible.
Circumvent the genocide prevention.
The court recalls that it has the power under its statute, when a request for provisional measures has been made,
expose yourself more, criminals,
to indicate measures that are in whole or in part other than those requested. In the present case, having considered the terms of the provisional measures requested by South Africa and the circumstances of the case, the court finds that the measures indicated need not be identical to those requested. The court considers that, with regard to the present situation, Israel must, in accordance with its obligations under the Genocide Convention, in relation to Palestinians in Gaza, take all measures within its power to prevent the commission of all acts within the scope of Article 2 of the Convention, in particular, A, killing members of the group, B, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, C, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, and D, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. The court recalls that these acts fall within the scope of Article 2 of the Convention when they are committed with the intent to destroy in whole or in part the group as such. The court further considers that Israel must ensure with immediate effect that its military forces do not commit any of the aforementioned acts. The court is also of the view that Israel must take measures within its power to prevent and punish the direct and public incitement to commit genocide in relation to the members of the Palestinian group in the Gaza Strip. The court further considers that Israel must take immediate and effective measures to enable the provision of urgently needed basic services and humanitarian assistance to address the adverse conditions of life faced by Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Israel must also take effective measures to prevent the destruction and ensure the preservation of evidence related to allegations of acts within the scope of Article 2 and Article 3 of the Genocide Convention against members of the Palestinian group in the Gaza Strip. Regarding the provisional measure requested by South Africa that Israel must submit a report to the court on all measures taken to give effect to the order, the court recalls that it has the power, reflected in Article 78 of the Rules of Court, to request the parties to provide information on any matter connected with the implementation of any provisional measures it has indicated. In view of the specific provisional measures it has decided to indicate, the court considers that Israel must submit a report to the court on all measures taken to give effect to this order within 1 month as from the date of this order. The report so provided shall then be communicated to South Africa, which shall be given the opportunity to submit to the court its comments thereon. The court recalls that its orders on provisional measures under Article 41 of the statute have binding effect and thus create international legal obligations for any party to whom the provisional measures are addressed.
So this is also an indictment of the United States.
The court reaffirms that the decision given in the present proceedings in no way prejudges the question of the jurisdiction of the court to deal with the merits of the case or any questions related to the admissibility of the application or to the merits themselves. It leaves unaffected the right of the governments of the Republic of South Africa and the State of Israel to submit arguments in respect of these questions. The order then states that the court deems it necessary to emphasize that all parties to the conflict in the Gaza Strip are bound by international humanitarian law. It is gravely concerned about the fate of the hostages abducted during the attack in Israel on 7 October 2023 and held since then by Hamas and other armed groups, and calls for their immediate and unconditional release.
Again, it's worth mentioning that during Al-Aqsa flood, the primary goal of Hamas was to negotiate the release of abducted Palestinians, Palestinian children, people who've been kidnapped extrajudicially, been held in prison for decades, right? Imagine fucking a little 13-year-old boy arrested for nothing, right? Gone. His family doesn't see him for decades. This is what Hamas is trying to negotiate the end of, right? And you consider, think about it logically, right? They kidnapped hostages, right? What do people take hostages for? When they want to negotiate something, right? When they want to leverage something. What the fuck could they possibly be wanting to leverage that they took so many hostages for? Could it possibly be the extrajudicial detention of their people, both in Gaza and the West Bank? And even during the short so-called ceasefire that was negotiated, when some of the hostages were released in exchange for Palestinians in the West Bank, we see that a much greater rate than of exchange than one person for one person was released. I think it was something like 100 something Israeli hostages released and like over 200 Palestinian prisoners released. If they actually valued Palestinian lives as much as Israeli lives, for each one hostage that was released on the Israeli side, one hostage should have been released on the Palestinian side. But they released way more Palestinian hostages for a small amount of Israeli hostages. And then they released these hostages in the negotiated deal between Hamas and Israel. And then Israel goes back and rearrests the same people that was negotiated with in the deal. This is the type of criminal behavior that not only South Africa, but the whole international community is watching Israel do in front of our eyes, right? So a little bit more context is always needed whenever Hamas and hostages are brought up. And don't even get me started on the so-called October 7th massacres. Because really, if anyone should be held accountable for October 7th massacres, it's the IOF. They're the ones responsible for killing most of their own people. But they won't tell you that in the Western media. They will never mention that.
I shall now read out the operative part of the order. For these reasons, the Court indicates the following provisional measures. 1. By 15 votes to 2, the State of Israel shall, in accordance with its obligations under the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide in relation to the Palestinians in Gaza, take all measures within its power to prevent the commission of all acts within the scope of Article 2 of the Convention, in particular, A, killing members of the group, B, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, C, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, and D, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. In favor, President Donahue, Vice President Gevorgian, Judges Tomka, Abraham, Benuna, Youssef, Shway, Bandari, Robinson, Salam, Iwasawa, Nolte, Charlesworth, Brandt, Judge Ad hoc Moseneke. Against, Judge Sebatinde, Judge Ad hoc Barak. By 15 votes to 2, the State of Israel shall ensure with immediate effect that its military does not commit any acts described in point 1 above. In favor, President Donahue, Vice President Gevorgian, Judges Tomka, Abraham, Benuna, Youssef, Shway, Bandari, Robinson, Salam, Iwasawa, Nolte, Charlesworth, Brandt, Judge Ad hoc Moseneke.
ICJ judge betrayed the
Against,
foreign policy
Judge Sebatinde,
initiatives
Judge
of
Ad
its
hoc
own
Barak.
country.
By 16 votes to 1, the State of Israel shall take all measures within its power to prevent and punish the direct and public incitement to commit genocide in relation to members of the Palestinian group in the Gaza Strip.
Israel will never do this of its own
In favor,
initiative. It will have
President
to be coerced.
Donahue, Vice President Gevorgian,
The whole
Judges
society is
Tomka,
criminal.
Abraham,
not
Benuna,
afraid to say it
Youssef, Shway, Bandari, Robinson, Salam, Iwasawa, Nolte, Charlesworth, Brandt, Judges Ad hoc Barak, Moseneke. Against, Judge Sebatinde. By 16 votes to 1, the State of Israel shall take immediate and effective measures to ensure the provision of urgently needed basic services and humanitarian assistance to address the adverse conditions of life faced by Palestinians in the Gaza Strip.
So any
In favor,
Zionist detractors
President
that want to
Donahue,
pretend this is black
Vice
or white,
President Gevorgian,
even the
Judges
International Court
Tomka,
of Justice is
Abraham,
ruling
Benuna,
overwhelmingly
Youssef,
for the institutional
Shway,
of these
Bandari,
provisional measures.
Robinson, Salam, Iwasawa,
Remember that.
Nolte, Charlesworth, Brandt, Judges Ad hoc Barak, Moseneke. Against, Judge Sebatinde. By 15 votes to 2, the State of Israel shall take effective measures to prevent the destruction and ensure the preservation of evidence related to allegations of acts within the scope of Article 2 and Article 3 of the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide against members of the Palestinian group in the Gaza Strip. In favor, President Donahue, Vice President Gevorgian, Judges Tomka, Abraham, Benuna, Youssef, Shway, Bandari, Robinson, Salam, Iwasawa, Nolte, Charlesworth, Brandt, Judge ad hoc Moseneke. Against, Judge Sabatinde, Judge ad hoc Barak. By 15 votes to 2, the State of Israel shall submit a report to the court on all measures taken to give effect to this order within 1 month as from the date of the order.
Again, so 1 month.
In favor, President Donahue, Vice President Gevorgian, Judges Tomka, Abraham, Benuna, Youssef, Shway, Bandari, Robinson, Salam, Iwasawa, Nolte, Charlesworth, Brandt, Judge ad hoc Moseneke. Against, Judge Sabatinde, Judge ad hoc Barak. I shall now call upon the registrar to read the operative part of the order in French.
Okay, well, that's the English part of the order. So I'm pretty much gonna cut that off here because unfortunately, I wasn't able to wake up on time to catch the live stream, so because I was pretty tired. I know I kind of suck for that, but yeah, I don't even know what to say at this point. The whole situation surrounding this is just so much grief, so much sorrow, but it is a little bit of catharsis to see the International Court of Justice, these imperialist international institutions, finally used to serve the people of the Global South, to be used as an instrument of actual justice. And one thing that I was surprised by is that, well, for one, I'm not entirely surprised that the ICJ ruled against Israel, because again, as is kindly pointed out by someone that I'm in contact with, they said that if the ICJ failed to institute interim measures against Israel, that would be political suicide in front of the entire world stage. They would lose legitimacy with the entire planet outside of Europe and America in the Anglosphere. So the ICJ doing the smart thing, which probably might have pissed off a lot of their imperialist institutionalist backers, they have sided with international justice. They've sided with actually following international law. So now the genocide states of the US and Israel and Canada and all these Western hegemonic states that have fully backed and supported the Israel project to the heel for the past how many decades? Now the chickens are all coming home to roost. Now, this indictment of Israel, of course, is also an indictment of the United States. So what's the Biden administration going to do now? Are they going to keep flaunting international law in front of our eyes? Now that the Genocide Convention has been applied against Israel? The ruling is a big part, but I think what happens next is huge. And we gotta wait and see for that, unfortunately. Obviously, the one thing that everyone hopes is that the killing stops. More lives are not lost. Free Palestine, always and forever, within our lifetimes. Because liberation is a necessity. Cannot continue living in these conditions. I'm gonna have to end the live stream right here. I know no one watched, so I'm pretty much just talking to myself at this point. But I'm just happy to been able to witness this historic moment. But yeah, so I guess it's the end of my first live stream. Maybe I'll do another one of these in the future. So when will last?